everybody, Josh Runquist here for Heavy Debriefings, and once you know it, it's the third episode of this series I'm surprised I even made one episode of, where we have even more opinions to make heavy music fans mad. These are all my own personal opinions, not trying to look cool, not trying to be edgy, just what I've been thinking about being as a heavy music fan for over 2 decades now. So, let's rile you up. Here's my Big Four ranking, which I know no one will agree with. Anthrax is the top one for me. It has the most amount of albums I enjoy, which is mainly 4 albums, and they're all of the John Bush era. All you have to do is check out the first episode of this series to see what I'm talking about. Then Megadeth has about 3 or 4 albums that I enjoy. There's a lot of songs off a lot of other albums that I enjoy, but not full albums. Metallica, again, like I mentioned in my very first episode of this series, I've gotten very, very burnt out on them, but I still like them more than Slayer. And the only Slayer album I fully enjoy is God Hates Us All, which I know will piss off more than enough people, and all I can say is good. I might get chastised for this, some people may agree, but I feel the next Big Four of thrash are far superior to the original Big Four: Testament, Exodus, Death Angel, and Overkill. While some people may mix things around about who are the real next Big Four after the main Big Four, this is what I've always felt it's been. The ranking might change. I mean, a lot of people feel like Exodus should be the top one. I don't have this in any particular order, just what came out as I was typing it out. But Testament is my favorite thrash metal band. I love every single Testament album. Exodus, more than half of their discography I truly, truly love. I love every Death Angel album. They're probably my second favorite thrash metal band. And Overkill, whether it was more the power metal side, the heavy metal side, or the thrash metal side, always has killer classics behind them. Whether you like Bobby Blitz's voice in the early days, currently, or altogether. I feel like these 4 are more innovative, more catchy, more fun to enjoy, more headbanging, and just overall better than the real Big Four. This one isn't so much for the heavy music fans, although a lot of people who enjoy heavy music love Porcupine Tree as much as I do, but the early day albums I just can't get into. I've tried for so long, but I really just don't like that psychedelic avant-garde thing that they were going on with in the beginning. The electronic moments, psychedelic, left of center drone kind of things. I know Steven Wilson is a musical genius, and he's come up with so many great albums, riffs, ideas, songs, and is such a huge inspiration to music. But for me, it wasn't until the days of Lightbulb Sun and Stupid Dream where I started getting into Porcupine Tree, and I loved that era. And all the way up to The Incident, I love the band. The latest album, I still have mixed feelings on. I feel like it's the weakest of the latter half of their discography, even more than The Incident, which makes me feel really sad because they did get back together. You can tell their heart and soul was into the music. I'm just not feeling it the way other people have. It bums me out, but it's just how it is for me. This one shouldn't be as controversial as it is, but depending on who you ask, it is quite controversial. Death has no bad albums. All 7 albums rule in their own particular way. I did a backwards marathon on this, which you can check out on this very channel, where I rank them in my own personal opinion, but I know a lot of people think that there's only 5 Death albums and the last 2 suck, which I wholeheartedly disagree with. Symbolic and The Sound of Perseverance are fantastic albums. While neither one of them are my favorites, they do beat out some of the albums that came before it. And I know that's quite shocking to hear for some people, particularly with Chuck changing up his vocal style from death metal to more black metal, but I have no problem with it. The music, the production, the songs, and yes, even Chuck's vocals more than make up for everything that's going along with it. But honestly, there is no bad album in the bunch. All 7 albums rule. And I wish more people would understand that these days. Yeah, this one sucks for me. And while there are still bands that really truly do sound symphonic, I miss that so many bands that I grew up with that really had that symphonic metal sound have really become more pop metal and modern metal bands. While some of them are really doing those styles fantastically, and I don't want bands to create music just to make myself happy, happy. It still bums me out that the real age of symphonic metal feels like it's in the past. And yes, like I mentioned, there are some bands going right now, some long-standing ones, some brand new bands, and everything in between that are still carrying the torch for symphonic metal. But there is still less of that going on. The less of the focus of trying to be as dancey and poppy and modern metal as possible, and really focusing on that symphonic orchestration that I love so very, very much. When you do discover one of those bands, it's great to hear, and I know it's not for everybody. Not everyone enjoys the operatic vocals that are in some of the bands. Some of them don't enjoy female vocals for whatever incel reason that you have, but I thoroughly enjoy symphonic metal, and I'm still waiting for that new wave of symphonic metal to happen. I still think it can, but it's just a really down period for the style, as so many people are taking the Amaranth route, and that bums me out. Now, I know opinions are going to be all across the board on this one. Some agreeing, some disagreeing, some wondering why I even like Meshuggah in the first place, some very upset that I don't love every Meshuggah album. But there's only one Meshuggah album I love from start to finish, and that is Destroy, Erase, Improve. The first time that they really had what became synonymous with them, that djenty 7/8 string sound. Now, a lot of bands really didn't start taking on the style till about like 10 years after this album came out. You know, bands like Periphery and all the bands that started coming out around that time, but no one was sounding like Meshuggah at the time when this album came out. And you can make the argument that they only improved from here on out. I mean, they started off as a thrash metal band, then they discovered this formula and went on forwards. It's not the best sounding Meshuggah album. I think that goes to Nothing, which is my second place album from Meshuggah, but I don't enjoy the whole album as a collective, but there are songs off of that album that are some of their best work. But Destroy, Embrace, Improve is just that perfect blend of leaving that thrash metal sound while still having a little bit of it, discovering that Meshuggah sound that they would patent and do throughout the rest of their career. But yeah, this is where it's at for me, and no other Meshuggah album does it for me like this one. Another opinion that is quite divisive, but hey, I gotta be honest with my truth here, I prefer King Diamond more than Merciful Fate. While Merciful Fate has the catchier songs, the more straightforward songs, and of course inspired bands like Metallica, King Diamond does it for me so much more. I love the conceptual horror albums, I love the diversity of King Diamond's sound and music that goes along with it. While not everything lands, I love and respect every single King Diamond album. And that is not to say that I don't enjoy me some Merciful Fate. I love Merciful Fate. The only problem that I have, for the most part, is some songs feel a little meandering, and the production style is quite rough, with the early albums that do have their best songs. All of that said, I am looking forward to both albums coming out whenever they come out this year, next year. I hope they just come out at some point so we can hear more of the King. And finally, one that I know a lot of people will not agree with. I stopped caring about Amon Amarth after With Odin on Our Side, which I feel is their best album. It is the culmination of everything that they did up to that point with their best production, their best songwriting, and the most inspired the band has ever been. The problem with that is that every album after tries to be With Odin on Our Side, and none of them match up to the caliber. I know Twilight of the Thunder God is considered to be their best album. It's easily their most successful album, and, you know, of course, there's so much that came because of that album, but to me, I feel like they really became the AC/DC of melodic death metal and Viking metal because of that album, because they did not stray from the formula after. And if you really want to hear my consensus about it, Amon Amarth is power metal with growls. Why don't you think about that one for a little bit? It makes sense. But yes, With Odin on Our Side is their best album, and they never reached that mountaintop to me ever since, even if they have grown to be one of the most successful and popular metal bands in the underground scene. Why don't you do yourself a favor if you've never gone through any albums before Twilight of the Thunder God and check out With Odin on Our Side, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So there you go, folks. More opinions to rustle the jimmies of heavy music fans. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree, got angry, laughed, or any other opinions that you have? Let me know down below. And of course, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until the next video from Heavy Debriefings on the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel, this is Josh Runquist saying, see ya.